Okay, today down in Dave's garage, we are going to start taking out the carburetors. I'm not going to go through the whole thing step by step, but covers come off. All these bands have to be loosened on the intake and the airbox. Everything's got to be pushed back so we can pull all 4 carbs out in the block. Have to remember to loosen the throttle cable. Okay, I'll be back with an update. Whenever possible, I like to put screws back where they came out for storage. Give them a few threads. They need to be polished. We can do it later, but that way we don't lose them, because we lose a lot of things. Well, I found something interesting yesterday, just poking around. I was pulling on things and I saw this wire that seems to be an add-on. So I started tugging on it. I tugged on it, and poof, of course, it came right off wherever it was. But I'm pretty sure it was tucked in on the back side of this block, which feeds also your main 30 amp fuse. I think it's 30 amp, 20 or 30. So this one was fused at 3 amps, and either there's a short somewhere that someone repaired. It goes all the way up to this orange cable, which goes into this bundle that goes to the headlight, and then off into the other side of the headlight. So we're fusing something separately in there, whether it was the headlight, something was shorting out, taking out the main fuse probably, and this is someone's attempt to bypass an issue somewhere. It was either a decent fix or an accessory addition. So we'll leave it there for now. We'll figure it out later. Just a note, the outside carburetor on both sides has the screws for the clamps, both on the bottom. They're double. You got 2 clamps, one for the carb and one for the intake. So on these interior carbs, you have the one on the carb side is up top, and the one on the intake manifold is I can't focus on it, but that's up underneath. So they have to be one top and bottom. Just a note. You'll have to pull apart these wires that are stuffed in between the airbox and the frame, because that's got to have room to pull back. There's also a hose on the other side. I believe it's a vacuum hose that feeds both carbs, or it's a vent. This one here has got to come off. Also pull off the breather from the top of the motor. This is going to be in the way of everything. Alright, I'm about to start the struggle of pulling these carbs out. It's not going to be a pretty sight. There will be a lot of swearing. Everything's loose, but everything's very old and very stiff. There is another clamp back here you have to loosen. And I've got the throttle cable adjuster loosened. So it's supposed to go out that way, to the left of the bike. Alright, we'll see you on the other side. Well, really made quite a bit of progress before I realized that you actually have to take these cables off down here. So after I do that, a little more struggle, the air intake. These bind up a little bit, but they're a little more flexible than these are. These are going to get replaced also. These are really dry. Okay, back after I take the throttle cables off. Okay, I found that the carbs, when pulled out of the front rubbers, wanted to drop down at an angle, and that helped. That got them out of the rear air box. I got one throttle cable removed. The other one I couldn't get to. It's still there, but it should come out with the rest of the assembly. Also, I loosened up the clamp for the choke cable, which will come out with the unit. So it should slide out now. Be careful when you take these rubbers off. They're very stiff and on there hard. When you're prying, you're going to end up trying to pry against aluminum. Make sure you're using a block of wood or rubber between whatever you're prying those rubbers off with. Otherwise, you'll break some fins and not be very happy. Okay, next these carbs will be on the bench. Success! Nothing broken, but what would this job be without a puddle of old gasoline in your garage? Okay, gotta clean it up before it stinks up the whole house. That's your air filter. That's an interesting air filter. Home for something. Well, that's going to do it for another day down in Dave's garage. Found out that the new boots I bought are incorrect. They were way too small. So that's an eBay issue I got to deal with. Just a couple notes on new tires. That's what's going on the bike. Choke cable was frozen solid, as most motorcycle choke cables tend to get, because they never get used. But that's freed up and cleaned up. So yeah, the next step will be full carb rebuild, all 4 of them. Hopefully parts I have for that are correct. We'll see you next time down in Dave's garage.